I got blood time! You had help, mate.
Hey, what's happening? It's goukigod here. So I spent the last weekend playing the Uncharted open beta and I wanted to share my thoughts on it. The general consensus seems to be that people are pretty happy and having fun, and while I mostly agree, it's not without its problems. Now, if you didn't know, this was the second beta run for the multiplayer, but it was the first one that was available to everybody who has a PS4. There were 3 maps available in this test, which I believe is 1 extra over the original closed beta from last year, but otherwise it was more or less the same test as before. The only game type available was Team Deathmatch, and these matches were restricted to 5 versus 5. I'm not sure how many other modes will be available in the full game, or if more than 10 players per match will be possible, but I'm guessing there'll be at least more modes just based on how the menu is set up for finding games. The 3 maps available were small to medium size, and I thought all of them were pretty good. They had a nice mix of verticality and different ways to traverse them, and they all felt unique. I would have liked to see some zip lines or other map-specific elements, but maybe those will be in the maps that ship with the full game. Each map also had a slidey section, which is kind of the best description I can think of for that, and I didn't really get the point of these. They didn't really offer much strategical advantage for the risk involved in taking them, and they seem to be generally ignored by most players. They certainly look cool, but I kind of thought they were a bit of a gimmick. Now, I played a lot of Uncharted 2's multiplayer back in the day, but not much from the third game, so there's a lot of things that felt new to me. The basic mechanics though have remained the same, and it feels very familiar overall. The biggest changes I thought were to the class system, and while it's pretty similar to previous games, there are plenty of new and different boosters. There are also now mysticals and AI buddies called sidekicks, which are kind of like point streaks which can be purchased mid-game. I thought the class system felt much more like a Call of Duty style system than in previous games, which is definitely not a bad thing. For example, you pick a primary and a secondary weapon, and then you can choose between boosters, which are like perks. You have mysticals, equipment, and of course the sidekicks. What you equip and how many items you have is restricted by a point system, not unlike the Pick 10 system from Call of Duty. It's an easy enough system to use and it has a lot of flexibility. I did think the boosters were a bit of a waste though. In previous games they affected performance much more, like increasing hipfire accuracy, but I didn't think there were really any this time that were all that useful. Like I said, the mysticals and sidekicks work a little bit like a point streak, except that you accumulate money in the match to purchase them. Money can be obtained from pickups around the map as well as getting kills. It's a nice system that makes it easier for less skilled players to still be able to earn these rewards without taking an advantage away from the skilled players. I tried all of the mysticals except for the last one, but I thought the Wrath of El Dorado was easily the most powerful. You threw it like a grenade and then it attacks enemies nearby, and it always seemed to work pretty consistently for me, and it was very effective against groups. I really like the sidekicks as well. I thought all of them seemed pretty balanced, except for the sniper. The sniper is just way too accurate, fast and lethal, and so many high-ranked players have already figured out where to best place them to easily lock down areas. When positioned well, these things are really hard to take out too, and I think they could definitely use a nerf to their health. The biggest change to movement is definitely the grappling hook, and you can only use it at certain points on the map, but it makes movement feel much more dynamic. It also adds an extra element of verticality as you can perform special takedown moves when above enemies. It does take a little bit of time to master, and I must admit for the first hour I kept falling short of edges and plummeting to my death. Now, other things that are similar to Call of Duty, and plenty of other games for that matter, is the loot system. You collect these purple relics to unlock chests that contain vanity items like outfits and taunts. It takes ages to get enough to unlock a chest, but there are daily challenges that can help speed up the process. You can also buy items using real money, but I don't think it's necessary because the dailies were pretty easy to achieve. I don't know if there are any rare items in chests that are not available to buy, but there certainly is the potential for that. Now, the character customization is pretty damn entertaining, and there's a good mix of serious and stupid stuff on offer. The taunts have returned and they're pretty awesome too. I mean, lots of them were in previous games, but they look much better now with the improved visuals. In regards to the gameplay, as I mentioned before, combat feels very familiar and they haven't messed with the format too much. My biggest complaint though would be that you don't die straight away, you fall into this bleeding out state where you can be killed or revived. I get the thinking behind it, it makes it a bit more accessible for new players and it adds another layer of depth to combat because it rewards you for helping out teammates. But I found that I was getting robbed of kills a lot, sometimes by accident, sometimes not so much. For example, it was quite common to down an enemy only for them to fall to their knees behind cover where you couldn't shoot them. Or even more annoyingly, a teammate would pop out of nowhere and steal your kill with a single kick after you just emptied an entire magazine into them. That's the other thing, the time to kill is pretty high and you're also invincible when falling to your knees, so these two things combined make securing a kill a pretty lengthy process. It's not broken, but it can be frustrating and it makes the scoreboard a little bit misleading too. I also thought that it looks weird sometimes, like if you lob a grenade at someone, watch it explode in their face and then have them simply fall to their knees and crawl away. Matchmaking is another area which I think needs work. It doesn't seem like any changes have been made since Uncharted 2 aside from the UI. It takes ages to find a lobby, and even when you do, it seems to not let you stay with the same people after each game. It just starts looking for new players. It also hung regularly for me, and I had to quit out of matchmaking and restart it to get back in. It is much easier to fiddle with your loadout in between matches, which is nice, but I'd like to see a more conventional lobby system implemented at some stage. From a presentation standpoint, it looks and sounds great as you'd expect from a Naughty Dog game. I don't know stats and figures, but the frame rate feels pretty smooth and solid, and I didn't notice any glitchiness or slowdown. I did have a few crashes though, which sent me back to the PlayStation dashboard, but I guess better that they find these issues out now than at launch. Overall, issues aside, I'm pretty impressed with the multiplayer component of Uncharted 4. I don't think it will tear me away from Call of Duty or Battlefront for too long, but it's a nice distraction, and I'm pretty keen to see what it turns out like with more maps and modes. Anyway, let me know if you got a chance to give it a spin and what you thought of it. Also, let me know what you would like to see changed in the final product. But that's all I've got for you in this video. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm out of here.
I picked up some new tricks in prison. Going down!